You're listening to First Paso. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first paso. Hello and welcome to First Paso, a show where we learn together how to take that first paso toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olushala, and y'all, we are in a season of transition as a whole country here in the United States. We are about to transition from the Biden to the Donald, and it's been a whirlwind here in this country. I can see that not everyone is responding equally. There are different emotions that are happening. We're seeing some highs, we're seeing some lows, we're seeing celebrations, and we are seeing Cry Me a River. Like, we're seeing both, and the celebrate good times, come on, is not everybody's song right now. And so I say that because I just really feel like we need to be kind to each other. There's a lot of pettiness going on. I feel like America needs a Snickers in a lot of ways. They need to sit down and calm down. And in other ways, I think there's a level of grief that has happened. And I don't want to diminish the grief. I do want to put the grief into perspective because we are so blessed in this country. No matter what the outcome of our presidents are, we have rights that so many other countries don't have, especially as women of color, those of us that vote and choose to do this voting process. There are rights that we fought for, and you have the right to execute them and you have the right not to. That's what that power has given us. And that alone shows us that we're so much more blessed than 99% of the world around us. So with that being said, while we navigate our season of transition over here in these united, not really United States of America, I'm going to need all you other friends from other countries to just pray for us, because I just don't know if we're prepared for this season of transition that we're just all entering into, whether we're excited about the transition or not. I think just as a country, it's just, it's giving tossed salad versus soup. Like, this is not united anything right now. So just say a little prayer for us forever. Please just keep us in y'all's prayers. With that being said, I want to talk today again about seasons of transition. However, I want for us to talk about it from the perspective of where we're located. Location, where we be during our seasons of transition. When we are going through a transition period, there are a lot of things that we should be assessing. One of which is where we're at. And I'm not just talking physical. I am also speaking about where we are mentally, where we are emotionally, where we are spiritually. The honesty that it requires to remain that self-aware throughout transition can be exhausting. And it's crucial because it can make or break how you are moving through your transition period. So, how do you actually know this? How do you assess where you are in a transition? I have an example of someone who didn't actually seem to be honest enough in their questioning of where they were in a season of transition, and it wasn't very helpful for them. So there's this story about this guy who was married to this woman, and It's in the beginning of the Bible in Genesis chapter 2 and 3. He's made, his wife is made, he's man Adam, his wife is woman Adam, man with a womb. And they're told by their dad, God of the universe, hey, you can only eat all these trees except this one. Eat any of these trees except for this one. If you eat of this one, you'll die. So man Adam lets woman Adam know this information. She ends up eating from the fruit of that tree anyway because she was deceived. And she shared it with her husband, man Adam, who really knew that he wasn't supposed to be eating this, but he was loving his girl so much, her and her curves, this bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh business. He just had to go and see what she ate and taste it. You know how men are. You always give them the leftovers. You know what I'm saying? That's what she did. And he took those leftovers, ate them, and all of a sudden they both felt naked and ashamed. They knew that they were naked and they all of a sudden felt ashamed, which they never had felt before. So when their dad, God of the universe, comes walking through the garden looking for them and he can't find them, which is very unusual, he knows where they're located physically. He wants them to now reveal that they know where they are, and not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So he says, man, Adam, where are you, son? And he's like, hey, I'm hiding. I heard you coming. I got scared. I hid and I realized I was naked. I'm ashamed of that. So now he knows that his son, man Adam, knows something he's not supposed to know. So his dad, God of the universe, asked him, how did you know you were naked? And man Adam starts to blame woman Adam. The woman you gave me, dad, is the reason why, because she gave me the fruit. And then she blames who gave her the fruit and all this stuff. So instead of being honest about what brought him to this base of shame, which was eating from the very tree that his dad told him not to, he started pointing blame and he's feeling all these emotions. He's not being honest with where he's at. It led to some consequences that he could have avoided had he just been truthful. And same with his wife. So I share that story because a lot of us don't always want to take accountability for where we are in a transition, of what's going on in a transition, what we're feeling. We might feel shame. We might feel guilt. We might feel frustrated and confused and lonely. We might feel all sorts of things. And we're trying to figure out the why. Sometimes we don't want to admit why. Sometimes we don't like to say, I don't know why. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm thinking like this. We like to sometimes pretend that we have it all together when we're transitioning. I can attest to this just from having gone from the world of pharmacy, announcing that I graduated as a pharmacist, and then a couple years later announcing that I'm leaving the world of pharmacy and I'm becoming this content creator, and watch me do my thing. I'm going to do public speaking and life coaching and all this stuff. And it's been a 3-year transition for me. It hasn't gone as smoothly as I thought it was going to be. And some people have questioned that. They've wondered what's going on, which has sometimes made me question, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I have done that? Should I go back to pharmacy? Well, God told me not to. And so what am I supposed to do? Trying to ask myself all these questions and not knowing how to always be honest with myself in that. It's hard. It's hard and it's important to be honest. So how do you actually know where you are? You got to slow down. You got to pay attention to you and go, okay, where am I? I am here in Wisconsin and I just moved here. Okay, how am I feeling about this move? I'm excited about it. At the same time, I'm nervous. It's a new place. I don't know a lot of people here. And I don't want to feel like I'm failing. or that I'll fail. What if I fail? What if I succeed? And then you got to check in with your mind. Is your fear paralyzing you from making any further steps in this transition? Was that first step into the transition season so petrifying and paralyzing that you were afraid to take any other steps within the season of transition? If so, you need to ask yourself, why? And what was it about that first step that it has paralyzed you? Unpack that for yourself. What about being afraid that you're going to make mistakes and you don't want to be embarrassed? What about not liking that you don't know every single step in front of you? And so you're scared to move until you are 1,000% sure you know what that next step is. That is not realistic. That is not realistic at all. We can't always know every single step of our lives. It's never going to happen. Things happen without our ability to predict them. This is just what it's like being human. Wouldn't it be so great if we had all the answers to our lives? Yes, but that would make us God, and with that we are not. So we have to operate in the trust that God's got us. He's going to lead us where we need to go. And when we make mistakes, He'll work it out. He'll lead us and guide us in directions. Whether we notice that He's doing that, we don't always have to notice that He's doing it. But we have to trust that we know that He's not going to leave us to just flop on our faces unless we want Him to, which He is respectful enough to do that. Going through our thoughts, journaling, really thinking about what is going on in my mind. Am I becoming depressed? Am I too cautious? Am I worried? Am I marinating in worry right now in my mind? Do I have the clarity? Do I sense that I'm confused and all over the place? I don't know where to start because I don't have a plan, and I don't like that I don't have a plan, and now I just feel like I'm just grasping at anything that I can find around me. Your heart, your thoughts, they can make or break how you approach each step you take in a season of transition. And then there's the spiritual. How you're connecting with God. Is that affecting your walk within this transition? Do you trust Him when He seems silent? Do you trust that it's going to work out? That it's going to be okay? Are you going to trust that you weren't crazy when you heard Him tell you to make that move? Even though that now that you've made it, things don't seem like you thought they would in your mind. Do you trust that when you need to have a step illuminated in front of you, that He will do that? Or do you think that He's going to leave you to just fall and trip all over your face the entire time and see if you just figure it out on your own? How you're feeling, how you're thinking, and what you're believing can change everything. So what do you do with all this information? What do you do once you've assessed your heart and your thoughts and where your spirit is with God in these transitions? You do them again. You keep assessing. You keep up with where you're at along the way. And you keep letting God know that you know where you are. Not blaming anyone, not pushing it off somewhere else, not taking accountability for your thoughts and your emotions and your belief. But being honest along the way, moments throughout the day, a once a week check-in, a monthly check-in, of how the month has gone and reflecting 6 months, a year, going through and really assessing how you're doing, how you've been doing, and if you're okay, and whether you're not. Those things are really important. Those things are crucial for the whole process throughout that wilderness season. But what do you do when you don't know? What do you do when you actually don't have the words to explain how you're feeling, what you're thinking, or even where you're at in your spirit with God and on this whole journey? It's better to be honest that you don't know than to lie to yourself and make something up. There are so many different types of seasons of transition, whether it's a new career, a move to a location, grief from the loss of something, or a traumatic experience that has happened, something unexpected that you didn't see coming. There are different types of transitions. And if you go back to the first episode of this season, you will hear about how there are multiple types of transitions that we go through. But it doesn't mean that we always have the words to explain it. It doesn't always mean that we have an answer for people, which can add to the varying emotions that we go through and the world of thoughts that we think through it. There are people who will keep asking you questions. They'll make you feel like you're making the wrong thing, or they might make you think that you're doing the right thing and it's not really for you to do. It can cloud your judgment. It can start to shut down your ability to hear from God clearly because you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. And the voices from outside of you, from friends, from family, people that you love, can sometimes be good for you, but sometimes it can be harmful to your process. And to discern that within yourself takes a lot of courage and a lot of quiet time, slowing down. So in the end of all that, if you still don't know, then you don't know. And sometimes you don't know for a while, which can be very difficult. It's hard to go that long, weeks, months, sometimes years, and feeling like you haven't found the words to explain where you are in your season of transition. And some of you, you always know where you're at. You always have the words to explain, regardless of what end of the spectrum or anywhere in between that you are. As long as you're honest, about where you are, it's going to be okay. What you don't want to do is have your inability to pinpoint yourself with words that you can articulate well, or even the emotions and thoughts that all culminate to where you're at. You don't want those things to control you. You don't want those things to control your process. They might help navigate, they might help steer, but they shouldn't be in control. Remember, you get to decide how you operate in a season. Just because you feel a thing doesn't mean you have to take the invitation to express that feeling in that certain way. Just because you think a thing doesn't mean you have to receive that invitation and RSVP to executing that thought. It's really going to depend. And you want to have dignity through your season of transition. You want to stay honest throughout your season of transition, not just to yourself, but to God. And the more that you practice this, the more that you'll realize that you are the steward over your transition period. The Lord will guide you. God will guide you. Jesus is there for us. And He's not going to force us everywhere. He's not as in control as people think. He is an authority, but that doesn't mean he's in control. He doesn't control really anything. He's an authority over and a steward over everything. But we have free will. So we have decisions to make, and he works with us throughout those decisions. So we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be accountable for how we're expressing what we're thinking and feeling. Find safe people to do this with, people to talk to process this through with. I don't know where you are in your season of transition if you're in one right now. And you might be in multiple. You may be in overlapping ones, and they're in different stages of the process, none of which you would know when the end of this transition is finished. Navigating those things is not something you should do by yourself. There may be seasons that you need to do by yourself, but the whole process is not for us to do. Friends, trusted family members, mentors, pastors, teachers, co-workers, neighbors, journaling to the you outside of you when you write in your pen, and prayer to God. Those things will help you figure these things out a little more. Because I guarantee you, there's someone who understands. There are people who have been in seasons of transition before. In fact, there may be people that you know that are actively in at least one, if not more than one season of transition. And they're wanting someone to talk it through with too. You don't even have to know everything about what someone's going through. You don't even have to understand the details of it. You don't have to know what a content creator does to know that it's challenging to try a new thing if content creation wasn't something you studied. You don't have to have lost a family member to understand that the idea of not being able to speak to someone you've loved for a really long time is hard, and feeling like something has been amputated from your body because they're not there and it's never going to be put back. There's a way to sit with people through a process, celebrate people through a process, and not have to understand the details of what it all means. We need to be there for each other in these seasons of transition. And we need to sit with each other when we don't have all the answers. We shouldn't get frustrated with ourselves when we realize it's been 6 months and I still don't know how to answer the question, how are you doing? Are you okay? Saying, I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know. That's okay. That's actually okay. I talked about where America's at right now. We're all being ushered into a season of transition as a country. And again, there are a lot of different emotions and thoughts. People are praying different prayers than their neighbors. And we're all having to navigate this differently. Find someone who can empathize with you. Even find someone who may not even agree with everything, but has the heart to still seek understanding enough for where you are that they love you through what you need support in. That's what we need to do. Whether it's trying to figure out how life is going to be under a new president, or what it's like to transition from one career to another seemingly unrelated career. Whether that's getting married and figuring out what it's like to live with your spouse, or if it's deciding that the lifestyle that you live is not for you to live anymore and you need to make an adjustment. Whether it's having kids and figuring out how to go from a parent of one to a parent of two, or if it's dealing with the loss of a child when you had hoped and prayed for this baby for such a long time. Transition seasons look different. Stay self-aware. Stay honest. Stay true to where you are. Don't be afraid to make choices based on you stewarding over what you know you have control over, letting go of the things that you don't, and taking it one step at a time. Paso a paso. That's what we do here, step by step. This is not a race. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon of one person. You're not in control of anyone else's race, and they're not in control of yours. We're all stewards of our own journey. You're not competing against each other, which is what I mean when it's not a race. The only race you have is the race that God puts you in, and it's just you. You don't have to compare to someone else. You can be encouraged by how someone is operating in their season of transition, but you don't have to be jealous if they seem to be, quote unquote, doing better than you are. There's no need. There's no need, because there's no correlation. There may be similarities, but there's no correlation. You are you and they are them. One step at a time, guys. I hope this is a helpful topic for you. And I really hope that if you are currently in a season of transition, that it's worth going through. That you actually start to enjoy the lessons that you pick up along the way, as difficult as they might be. And I hope that when you reach your promised land, that you'll look back and you'll say, you know what? I'm proud that I stayed honest all the way through. I'm glad that I pushed myself even on days when it was hard. I'm glad I was taking rest seriously when I realized my body and my mind and my spirit needed that rest. I'm glad that I connected with people along the way. I'm glad that I cut off certain people along the way. I want you to be proud that you did your best, staying as honest as you knew how, all the way through. Because there's a prize on the other side. Whatever it is that God has in store for you on the other side of this, it's yours for the obtaining if you keep going. And there's a secret though. There are prizes all along the way as well. So keep your eyes open, your heart open, your spirits lifted, and press on. I hope this helps. It's helped me. And before we go, if you are in a season of transition, I want you to repeat after me some words of encouragement for yourself. And I want you to insert your name where I insert mine. I want you to say, Candace, this is where I'm at in my season of transition. Now take the time to state what that is. Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can pause the podcast to say that to yourself if you need to. And then once you've done that, I want you to say, this is where I am. I accept where I am. This is where I was before. And I can see the comparison between the two. This is where I hope I'm going. State what those things are. And then say, all along the way, I will be honest. And I'm excited to find out who I am becoming on the other side. I hope that you said that. I hope that you took the time to really process those things and that you get to do that regularly with yourself, even with someone that you trust. Find a friend who is also a First Pasito and see where they're at. Ask each other, are you okay? Do you need anything? How can I support you in your season of transition? And I would love to share where I'm at in mine. That's what this community is for. That's what this podcast is for. I want us to build and be honest in the authentic ups and downs of this thing that we call life. So I hope that this topic resonates with you. If there are any topics in the future that you want to hear, any guests that you want on here, feel free to look in the description box or in the show notes for all of that information. And I would love for you guys to continue to share with me what you desire here so I can make sure that I'm putting out things that you actually need and desire. Otherwise, all that to say, I love you guys. Take care. Stay safe. God bless and besitos. We'll talk soon. Bye.